admissions test. We're going to talk a little bit about what the ACT and SAT look like and helping them determine sort of what's the best test for them. And then once that's done and they're kind of working through that, researching and developing a college list, which we will help them with in the spring as well. So we'll kind of go over what the steps look like throughout this junior year. Okay, so deciding on the path. So these are the pieces that, or the places rather, that our students ultimately matriculate to once they leave high school, right? So we're looking at the workforce or a gap year, a 4-year school, a 2-year school, technical school or vocational training, and then military enlistment. I'd say that it varies a little bit from year to year, but we're looking at about 85% of our students ultimately choosing a 4-year or a 2-year school. So a lot of the time they spend with us is looking at college planning and what that looks like. But we're also here to support any student's path, whether that is through, finding a career right away, looking at military, looking at trade school, technical schools, and any vocational training as well. All right, so just a couple of pieces in terms of the difference in all of those future plans. The 4-year college is where they're going to be looking at their bachelor's degrees for their career field. Universities, they'll offer graduate and professional programs. We'll talk to them about kind of what the end goal is. So if the end goal is beyond just a bachelor's degree, if they want to be a doctor, we'll talk about med school, we'll talk about vet school and everything sort of that comes after that. And then also 4-year colleges are going to range in terms of their acceptances and their admissions requirements. All of the counselors at Webster do a great job of making sure we're having future planning when we talk about course selections. So it's really helpful for us, even starting as early as 8th grade, we're talking to students about what they need to do to make sure that if a 4-year college is their goal, we're doing everything we can to make sure they get there. For the 2-year colleges, they offer associate's degrees. Most students are going to take those classes and then eventually transfer to a 4-year college. They could also earn a certificate in job training in quite a few different fields. The 2-year colleges have open admissions. They still have to complete their registration and application piece. And then they're also in the state of Missouri A+ eligible. And we'll talk a little bit about the A+ program later on in the presentation as well. Vocational and technical options would be certifications, associate's, or bachelor's degrees. These are those hands-on career-specific training. So specifically students who know what they want to do career-wise, working with their hands and getting training specifically for that career. They'll vary in cost, and the programs will also vary depending on where they're going and what that vocational or technical school looks like or that program looks like. There are some where you can earn money while you are working within that industry. So things, will vary depending on which program students are looking at or going into. There is a high demand for jobs in a lot of those areas. And so those are always a part of our conversation when we're meeting with students. For military or workforce, that's again, industry specific, depending on their individual career paths. And then the military requirements, we also review and go over those too. All right, so here's the actual percentage breakdown from the class of 2024. So 72% ended up at a 4-year college or university, 16 at the 2-year, 6 went technical school or vocational training, 4% went into the workforce, and then 1% military enlistment. All right, so this will be the piece that is going to be, I think, really fun when we go into the classrooms and talk to the juniors next week or in 2 weeks, which is getting to know yourself and your potential career. So I think sometimes students have these dreams or ideas in their head when they really think about who they are, how those strengths really sort of fit into that. So we talk a lot about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what does that say about, your potential future and those career. So they do an interest inventory, which is available on Naviance. They have taken one as freshmen. I think they've took one, you know, in eighth grade as well. So we're continuing to change that up because students change throughout high school and their what they want and who they are adjusts. Um, we want students to make sure they're participating in career shadowing. I think Carrie's going to talk a little bit about what the Chelsea Center can offer there. But it gives them a on the ground experience for what that career actually looks like. Because I think we get things in our head, oh, if I'm a vet, this is what that looks like. I'm helping animals get better. But there's a lot of nuances that go into what that career specifically means. So we do recommend that students participate in any career that they can, or at least talking to someone who's in that career to get interest or to get an idea of what that is. Summer programs on college campuses are great. We've had so many students who have ultimately been able to streamline what their future goals are by going through summer programs, or you know, it's helpful in terms of picking a school or a college. You know, a student goes to a business summer program on Purdue campus, and now that's her dream school, right? And we can help her get there. So those summer programs are really great opportunities for students as well. And then I already talked a little bit about students thinking about their strengths and weaknesses and how that can lend itself well to certain career opportunities. And then we also really want to make sure that the students are taking advantage of all of the extracurriculars and opportunities they have in front of them. Make sure they have plenty to write on those college applications in the activities and honors section by joining clubs and activities and taking on new challenges, and exploring even with their elective choices and classes too. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ahrens.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Ahrens, and I'm the coordinator of the Chelsea Center. I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. And it looks like it stopped unexpectedly. Let me retry that. Perfect. There we go. Hopefully you can all see my screen at this point. Perfect. Thanks, Jenny. So I'm here to share with you a little bit about the Chelsea Center and the ways that we can help your juniors explore passions that they're interested in, future careers. I'm the coordinator in the Chelsea Center, and I'm joined by Patrick Bomarito, who's another teacher in the center, and Miss Elissa Sullivan, who is our new assistant and just a great community connector herself as well. We are named after Chelsea Dietrich, who is an alumna of Webster Groves High School, graduated in 2003, and unfortunately, after graduating from Elon with honors, passed away in 2009. And her father, Mr. Glenn Dietrich, helped found the center and continues to support the center and students' opportunity to explore in hands-on ways topics they're interested in or careers that might be of interest to them as well. So if you haven't heard that phrase, experiential learning, it really just means students engage in learning by doing and then reflecting on that learning. And when you think about whatever the next step is for your child and why they might want to engage in experiential learning as part of their career here at Webster Groves High School, it really is a neat opportunity for them not only to get hands-on learning, but individualized learning, focused on what their strengths are, as Ms. Ashinger mentioned, or their interests. And it can make that exploration fun, as they mentioned as well at the beginning. And oftentimes it's community-based learning as well. It helps them explore some of those career pathways and interests. And for those students who are headed toward a more competitive application process for some careers or college or military service, helps them stand out in the application process as well. When we think about the Chelsea Center, we often use this visual to explain the different options within our center for your children to explore and hopefully find that thing that lights them up inside. In the lower left corner, you'll see an icon for job shadowing. And Ms. Ashinger had mentioned that opportunity. We here in the Chelsea Center are happy to help your children explore jobs that they're interested in. They get a release day each year to engage in job shadowing and excused absence. And we act as that kind of conduit for them. We find a match out in the community for them to go and shadow alongside a veterinarian at Brentwood Animal Hospital, for example, for a half day and learn what that career is really like. And then we help them debrief that experience as well. Students can also engage in longer term internship opportunities through us as well. So if they have that career interest and maybe they've taken that toe dip of shadowing, but now they really want a full fledged internship, they can do that through the Chelsea Center. And we have a variety of community partners who are interested in having high schoolers come and learn their industry or come and learn more about their nonprofit and engage in that meaningful work alongside of people who are in that profession. We also have a pathway for students who might envision themselves as future teachers. This is a really exciting newer program for us in the Chelsea Center. It's in partnership with Webster University. So if your child is interested in being a teacher, we'd encourage them to take this course during their senior year. It's a 2-hour long block course where they learn all about best practices in teaching and then go out into various buildings throughout Webster Groves and try their hand at not only observing other teachers teaching and seeing what theory looks like in practice, but then they themselves have the opportunity to teach small group lessons, mini lessons, and end their year with a practicum experience. Right now, what's beautiful about that is students can earn 4 hours of college credit for that first year
In your
experience in the
trash
teaching
can.
and learning program. And that college credit is free. Students can also take other courses in the Chelsea Center, like real world problem solving, which is focused on empowering them to change, to affect change in the causes they really care about. They can design their own elective in a passion pursuit class. We work with them to find mentors in the community who are interested in the same topics that bring them joy, and design an elective curriculum for them to earn elective credit. They can also earn credit through service learning and travel as well. So those are some of the courses we offer. I also mentioned that we help with job shadowing opportunities. And we also help students find A+ opportunities. So if your student is interested in a community college, there's an A+ scholarship that's available, and we can talk a little bit more about that in the Chelsea Center if they want to pop by and see us. But we can help them find hours to fulfill that mentorship component of the A+ program, or also the job shadowing hours. And lastly, Ms. Ashinger had mentioned some summer program opportunities for students. The Chelsea Center also helps students find some of that programming, and we can actually help underwrite the costs of that programming as well. You know, lots of local universities have career exploration opportunities for students in the summer. Mizzou has some great medical camps, the Mizzou Mini Med School. They have an advanced veterinary academy that we've had students participate in. SLU, St. Louis University, has a variety of engineering experiences for students. So not only can we fulfill an application for getting into that programming, but we can meaning of it and learn how to talk about those experiences in college essays or resumes for whatever their next step is. So that's a little bit about the Chelsea Center and some of the things we do. But just to give you an idea of what this might look like from a student lens, I'm going to highlight one of our students, Janaya, who came to see us when she was a sophomore, thinking she was interested in a career in medicine. So we kind of carved this pathway out of experiences for Janaya to not only get those toe dips into a career in medicine, but also to build her confidence in her own skill set as a leader and a learner. And so while she started off at a program called Saturday Scholars for Washington University, where on Saturdays, students hear from graduate students about different systems of the body, and then they go to the cadaver lab and actually see those systems. After Saturday Scholars, Janaya accompanied us to a healthcare professions fair where she learned about a variety of healthcare professions. She engaged in a program designed for students of color with the Diversity Awareness Partnership for through Millipore Sigma and looked at bioscience, and also had a leadership opportunity with the Perry Initiative, which led to her leadership roles in the district as a liaison to our school board and the founder of our Women in STEM Club, ultimately landing her in a position where she felt confident to apply for a very selective paid internship opportunity with the Young Scientist program. She also was a student in our real world problem solving class. So when we talk about students having fun, kind of exploring those interests that they have, Janaya is a prime example of somebody who took advantage of a lot of different things we had to offer and really was able to get some hands-on experience in medicine before she ever even graduated high school. So we're really proud of our ability to individualize experiences based on students' interests and passions. And we work hand in hand with the counseling department, who are very gracious in recommending us to students and who also partner with us to kind of help pave these pathways for students as well. Um, Students can pop by the Chelsea Center anytime they'd like. There are three of us here with the goal of meeting them whenever they're available to meet. They can request us for academic networking as well. But some students prefer to do some exploration online. And so all of your children have access to something called Give Pulse, and the website is up there now. And they can do things like type summer into the search bar and see all the summer programs that we know about populate on their screen. Or they can search by a career field of interest, like the building and fixing pathway, and find out about a Build Your Future group job shadowing experience we're hosting next week. Or a group job shadow that we're attending at the Missouri Botanical Gardens next week. So we have lots of tools for students to explore, engage, and get really excited about not only their lives right now in high school, but whatever comes next for them. And the Chelsea Center is a resource for you as well. This is a picture of my family. I've got, a kiddo in college, so I've been there. I know this time is exciting and a little stressful, and I can, help your kiddo through it. My daughter's a senior herself, and my youngest is a freshman in high school, although this picture's old. He's like 6'2" now. But my contact information is on the screen, and we're always happy to partner with you and your children to help them kind of figure out what really lights them up inside now and in the future. So thanks for letting me chat with you a little bit tonight.
All right, we'll go back to the other presentation.
Dramatic pause as we share
Right,
screens.
exactly. All right, so a few more slides before I turn it over to Jenny to go through some sort of more nitty-gritty stuff. So what do the juniors need to do this year? So when you're thinking about your student, what should they be doing, and what conversations should be being had at home? So first one is prepare for and take the college admissions test. I'm going to talk, I think the next two slides are about the ACT and the SAT specifically, and we'll want to make sure that we set them up for whichever pathway they're going to take. So even if at this point they're saying, oh, I want to go 2-year, or I'm thinking military, we want to make sure they're prepared and are taking college admissions tests, because I have had plenty of students who get into senior year and go, you know what, I would really like to apply to so-and-so college. And we want to make sure that they've got everything on their resume to be able to do that. The second piece would be conducting the college search and really developing the list. This is the part that I feel like should be really, really fun. So envisioning what they want out of their college experience and what they might want to study, and finding schools that have those fields of study. The harder part of that conversation is going to be when you start looking at sticker prices and having those financial conversations, but it's good to start those now and make sure you're having realistic, although fun, conversations about what options are ahead as far as that college list. And then start planning ahead for your applications. There's a lot that's going to happen at the very beginning of senior year. So if their college list is set coming into the school year, they're going to be in a much better shape for starting the applications. The English teachers are great about helping them write the essays. So really that list is kind of number one, having that set, and then really just getting everything in order in terms of what experiences you're going to share on the applications, or maybe having those experiences in the summer prior to going into senior year as well. All right. So this one's definitely for you. How can you help? Whoop. Ah, we good? Okay. So the ACT. So the ACT is a college admissions exam. It's the one of the two major college admissions exam. It consists of subject areas in English, math, science, and reading. The scores range 1 to 36. The fees are sort of listed there. Juniors will all be tested in December of their junior year. Or sorry, many juniors begin testing in December, but we will give the test at Webster Groves High School in April of their junior year. So all of the we're hoping by the end of the school year, all of the juniors have at least one ACT taken before going into senior year. And then the SAT is the second college admissions test, and it has two sections, which is the math and evidence-based reading and writing. Each section is scored on a scale of 200 to 800 for a total of 1,600, and then the SAT test fee is there. We do not do a test in school the way we do with the ACT. But beginning in 2024, it's important to note that the SAT has actually been shortened and offered in a digital format. So instead of the 3.5 hours, it's closer to 2, which is really nice. And that will be something that students and families would register for on their own to take. So I think I'm turning it over to Jennedy now to kind of cover some other pieces of information.
Yeah, so just like Cassie mentioned, the ACT and SAT is offered several times throughout the year. So these are the test dates for this academic year. We've got the test that the Webster Groves School District provides for all juniors nestled in there in the spring. So oftentimes students who are thinking about doing test prep, or maybe they're enrolled in the test prep class, will take advantage of all of the work they did preparing for the ACT, for instance, and be able to take 2 tests in 1 week. So that's sometimes, something that we'll talk about with students too, as we start planning with you all more seriously and more specifically in January. For that test in April, for all the juniors, there's no registration that's needed on your part. So we take care of that and register them as a group. And then we ask the students to basically create an ACT account leading up to the test, and that's it. So we handle everything that we need to that day, and you'll hear more about that from us probably in February or March. All right, so the college search. So this is the fun Cassie was really kind of building up to, but this is it can be daunting because there are just truly so many options. So if you think about the number of schools that are out there, there are over 3,000 schools for students to choose from if you look across our country. And so I think that part of deciding, okay, where am I going to apply? What is a good fit? Am I missing anything? I think those are sort of the common fears when approaching this process. And I also feel like students and families are always looking for the perfect school. And so the perfect school can exist, but truth of the matter is there's probably, a dozen to 50 schools around the country that your student would be perfectly happy at. And so it's not important to find every single one. But it is important to think about the things that are important to your student to find the perfect place for them. So just kind of shifting that narrative of finding the perfect school to really just making it more about the student and the family and what's going to work best for them during their, for their 4 years while they're in school. So thinking about the important criteria, researching schools that match those things, and then creating that list this year, by the end of the year, and we'll share this with students next week, but really having, maybe 5 or 10 schools that they're seriously considering applying to. And that way they're ready to go at the beginning of senior year when we start sending applications off really in those first couple of weeks of school. So when you're thinking about the things that you might consider are important to you, this is where students really get to think about themselves. So I think leading into in high school and selecting electives and looking at the list, and adolescents are really into thinking about what their peers are doing and wanting to follow along with that, as they should, developmentally appropriate. But really trying to ask them, like, what are the things that you really would like to see in your school? So for students, it can range quite a bit. Could be the location of a school, so if a student wants to stay a little bit closer to home, maybe they don't want to go any further than an hour away. And then there are some students who are wanting to hit a coast, or maybe they're looking in Europe, or they're looking in Canada to go to school. So obviously the options get bigger the further you go. If you draw that radius around St. Louis, you hit a lot of really great schools, some of the best in the country. So we're lucky to be situated in a place where we're going to hit a lot of schools. But then you start adding some of these other criteria in, and it can really start to narrow that list down pretty easily. Obviously, a student's experience on campus is going to be much more than what they see on a website, and much more what they can read in a brochure. So thinking about, the size of a school. So not just how long does it take me to get to my class, but what is it like when I sit in the class? Do I want to be in a small setting with less than 10 or 15 students where I'm really going to be heard every single day when I sit down? Or am I okay with being in a larger lecture hall and getting what I need and moving on and kind of crossing some of those requirements off the list? So those are some, I think those two really help narrow the list down, quite a bit. And then everybody's coming from a different place. So there may be students who want to be on a campus that is pretty similar to Webster, whether that's the demographic makeup, or if it's situated in a suburb, whatever that kind of thing might be. Or there might be students who want, their religious affiliation emphasized on campus. They want to be able to, go to mass on a regular basis and that be part of the culture on their campus. Obviously, their academic program is going to be a huge thing to help narrow, but we know that students don't have their minds made up yet, right? So it's okay if they don't know that yet. So I typically will advise students and families to make sure that everything else works and that they have options to choose from on that campus. So we know, 75% of college students change their major at least one time. So it's something to kind of anticipate. But there are students who know exactly what they want, and they'll declare it as a freshman and graduate with it in 4 years. So it can be a tool, a better tool for some than others. Cost is something to consider, of course. It would be lovely if we could send everybody where they wanted to go and they didn't have to worry about money. But fact of the matter is, college is expensive. It's getting more expensive. And so it has become quite a bit of a deciding factor. We do encourage you, though, although those price tags are really high and there's lots of numbers in them, don't let that be the first reason that you cross a great school off of your list. So we want you to consider all of the other things, apply, see the process through, think about what scholarships could do, what financial aid can do, before you cross a school off the list. Because you can be surprised at a discount you might get at a school that you weren't expecting. And if that's a great fit for the student, we really want to make sure they see it through the process. So other things that, students will kind of determine if they are important to them as they're going through the process, and things that they may not know that are important yet, but they might find that out when they start visiting campuses and doing information, tours and getting information. So finding information, again, can be overwhelming. We like to direct you to different resources that don't have a whole lot of spam and ads and things like that. So we do have a college search tool through our Naviance site. So students have access to Naviance through Clever. And we have encouraged them to get in there to do some career interest inventories and that sort of thing. But there is a college search tool in there. And that one's great because you're able to save your results and kind of like mark schools that you might be hearing of and that are interesting to you. Big Future by College Board. So that is the testing company that runs, AP exams and SAT and all of that. But they have a great college search tool called Big Future. And so it just allows you or your student, I use it some of the time, to put in those different criteria that are important to you and then pull schools that match those criteria. So those are also, that's another great site. If you're really into statistics and kind of putting schools specific criteria next to one another, the Department of Education has a college navigator. So they have specific statistics about, the amount of students on campus receiving financial aid or, the percentage of, professors who have the terminal degree in their field that are teaching the introductory courses. They have really, really specific information that can help you get a little bit more detailed information. And then also their outcomes, what's the graduation rate? If it's a 4-year or a 6-year graduation rate, what's the retention rate? What's the rate that students are staying for their second year? So I like that one if you're really kind of trying to get to the fine differences between campuses, because again, a lot of them look kind of the same in the brochures and on the website. So finding some of those more smaller details can be helpful too. The best information can be found directly from the colleges, of course. So I'll show you real quickly, but we are really lucky to have a lot of college visits that come right to our campus. So this is here on our website, our counseling website, but we keep a calendar of all of the college visits that are going on in our building from day to day. So over the last couple of weeks, we've had probably over 20 schools scheduled with us. So we have representatives that are assigned to our schools from these colleges that will come and sit with our students. So today in our office, we had a busy day. We had Bradley, Drury, University of Arkansas, and SLU at the end of the day, just today. So they come and they sit down with the student, they talk through their application process, they talk through admission and scholarships and, what's there to do around the town their school is in. So this is really a great way to get information about the school and also make a personal connection. Because I find too, like when digging through all of these websites and trying to find information, it's hard to find sometimes. And so looking to be able to pull out that business card, you got at that college visit and be able to contact that person that can answer your question is really going to help you in that process. So we encourage juniors and seniors to attend these. So they have been, I think, moderately attended so far. I think they'll pick up after today. And the juniors and seniors, they don't have to have anything prepared. They can just show up as they are. And the rep truly leads that experience with them in the college rep visit. So have your students, if they hear that the college is coming, which they hear in the announcements every morning, we put the college visits in there, they just need to come to our office and grab a pass. So we just write them a pass for that time and they're excused from class for about 30 or 40 minutes. So we've got a lot of great schools coming the rest of the week and then on into October as well. So we'll have visits all the way through October and they usually wrap up right around November 1st. Another great way to get information about schools is to visit their campuses. So visiting campus is pretty easy to set up now. You can call, of course, but oftentimes college websites have great resources and options for visiting right on their website. So this is just an example. This is Missouri S&T, which is in Rolla. And so here, their website's actually really easy to navigate, which is why I picked this one to show you, but it shows you how you can schedule an in-person visit on their campus. You can choose to do a virtual visit. So maybe you're looking at a school that is a little bit further away, or you're not going to be able to go, do a tour. Connecting with that school virtually, there's more options than ever on that. There are also different events that colleges will hold either on their campus or in St. Louis. So some out of town or out of state schools may be holding events at a hotel ballroom where they are inviting students in the region to come get some information while they can. So all great options. It's not too early, so juniors can definitely start visiting campuses to get an idea of what they like. I really encourage students to, especially as a junior, I really encourage them to start looking at schools that contrast one another to get an idea about some specific criteria that they really like. So maybe visiting a big school like Mizzou, and then visiting a school that's on the smaller side, like Maryville University. So that can give them a taste of what their experience would be like on schools that contrast one another. So that's always a good place to start. It could be that they're not even interested in attending there, but just getting onto the campus and seeing what they should be looking for can be really helpful. We do excuse students from school to attend college visits. So if you see that we have a 3-day weekend coming up in October, or maybe you have a family vacation scheduled and there's an extra day that you can get a college visit in, a student can be excused from school to attend a college visit. You would just call that in and report it to your attendance office as usual, but we really do encourage students to get onto the campuses that they're interested in. So after all of your research and all of those things, you will really start narrowing down that application process. And again, having about 3 to 7 schools or a handful of schools by the first day of senior year means you'll be ready to go. It doesn't mean you know where you're going or what you want to do with the rest of your life, but you know where you'd like to apply. And so we'll take it from there. And we meet with students at the beginning of senior year to really give them the nitty gritty on how to submit everything and request everything. That's exactly what we're doing with the seniors right now. And knowing that really most of the application process is during first semester of senior year. So students are trying to meet deadlines as early as October 1st, but most students are really shooting for that November 1st deadline to have everything completed and submitted. So the work is done during junior year so that the beginning of the senior year, the students can really focus on the submission of the applications. We also have some college events that we host to help you along in this process. So coming up in a couple of weeks at Lindbergh High School, we partner with Melville, Oakville, Kirkwood, and Lindbergh to put on a big college fair. So we have over 90 colleges that will be at this fair at the gym at Lindbergh High School. And this is a great way to kind of kick the process off. So you can come, after games or activities, you can come as you are. You can come with your students can come with their friends. It's very casual, but you basically just show up and you walk around and you grab brochures off a table. So it's kind of the way I did it, years ago when I was applying to college, but it is a good way to start gathering a lot of information, ask about specific majors, or get an idea of what admission requirements are. And it can really start your students feeling energized in the process and really looking forward. So we really encourage you to attend. We'll send out a little bit more information about that as it gets a little bit closer to the event. We also do a college and career night. Hopefully some of you attended that last year with your students as sophomores, but we will dive more into the college search process for juniors, and we'll have different sessions, including financial aid and other things that are helpful to students as they're starting the process. So we'll do that again in February. And of course, we'll share more information as we get closer to that time as well. So as we're talking about college and really kind of, most of our students are going to four-year schools, as we've seen our outcomes from the last few years. We do have quite a few students who take advantage of the A+ scholarship that they're able to earn. So this is a state of Missouri scholarship. So any student who completes these criteria by graduation is eligible to earn 2 free years of community college. And it's good for any community college in Missouri. or our state technical college, which is in Lynn, Missouri. So it would cover your tuition for 2 years. It also can be used to gain some partial scholarships at some state universities. So Truman State is one of those, as well as Missouri State. They'll give students a small scholarship as long as they've completed the A+ program. So that's a nice benefit there if you're going to attend. And it's a good backup plan, just in case that first school doesn't, work out for you. Things happen. I'm sure many of you have, relatives or friends where, a student went away to school and, something changed, whether that was stuff going on personally or at home, or maybe it was their major, or they weren't ready yet, whatever the case is, they were able to come home and still have access to that A+ scholarship. It is good for students for up to 4 years after graduation. So we really hope that every student who is meeting those criteria there have that A+ stamp on their transcript, just in case. It's also a great way to save a lot of money on tuition. So if you are thinking about, attending, especially a school in state, they have articulated all of these courses now so that they're guaranteed to transfer. And so you're really not losing much time by attending community college and then transferring on to that 4-year school. So, of course, we'll talk about this with students and make sure that they're signed up, and you can always check with your counselor on that as well. If you have a student who is interested in participating in college athletics, there is a bit of an eligibility process they'll have to go to as well. So in addition to the side that your student's coach might be helping along with, and on the field or on the mat or whatever it is, they also have to be cleared academically to be especially a Division I or Division II athletes. So if you have a student who's headed in that direction, we're happy to help start taking a look at what those course requirements are. They do have to have quite a bit of academic electives on their transcript. So believe it or not, we're starting to think about course selection already for next year. But that'd be something to check into right around that time. So just a reminder to check out those websites as well before the end of the school year. So how Ms. Ashinger and I will help. So I will be the college counselor for students with last names A through K. So I'm switching to the beginning of the alphabet. I've been at the end of the alphabet for a while. And then Ms. Ashinger will be the counselor for students with last names L through Z. So typically we will send emails out. It's really the best way to get information to a lot of people. So we do that through e-news and Parent Square. And then we also, in e-news, we have a little counseling corner, and I tend to put some upcoming dates and things in there as well. So try to make sure we give you all the information that you might need. Like I mentioned, we are heavy in the application process with seniors. So we're writing rec letters and sending transcripts. And so we will meet with the juniors, but not yet. So we set aside the first couple of months of the calendar year to meet individually with you and your student for an individual planning meeting just based on college. So we will send that out right after winter break for you to schedule a time with us. And we'll sit down and we'll start from wherever you are. So whether that's the very beginning of coming up with ideas on places to look into, or maybe we're starting to look at admission requirements or scholarships for a particular school. So those are great. That's the best part of my job, is just sitting down and getting to know the students a little bit better, and really hearing about what their aspirations are, and hopefully kind of getting you a plan for the spring to make sure you're ready to go for the fall. Okay, so just some tips. These were previewed earlier. my fault. But you can help your students in this process by encouraging them to take the lead. So, letting them know, hey, did you know that there's college visits going on in the counseling office? Just go down and get a pass. And then, because they truly will be leading this process. They're the ones writing their name down on the contact card and their email. And the colleges are really just communicating with them directly. And so, while they will need help with this, right? But the things that they can do, really encourage you to just let them do it. It's going to really help the transition for them being their own, taking responsibility over their education in another year or so. So some of the baby steps junior year can really help along in that process. Another thing is just being really transparent and honest about financing college. Like money is a tough subject, even among families, college is expensive. Students may have expectations that might not be realistic. So it's good to just have that conversation straight up. So we, again, aren't eliminating schools right off the bat due to finances, but just having the conversation all along through the process can make it just a little bit better, especially in that final decision-making process where, there won't be too many surprises. So that's always something that we hope that you'll talk about with your students. And then scheduling a planning meeting with us. We have those dates set aside for all of our junior families, and we'll make sure that we meet with, whoever requests one. If you miss it for some reason, or you've got a lot going on, we're available. We're at school, every day. So we're happy to meet with you when it works best for you. We can do those meetings also virtually. So we can, if you're, usually a lot of educators, if you're on your plan or your lunch break and you want to Zoom in, we'll call your student down and we'll meet with you while you Zoom in with us, and we can get that time together. So, yeah, we really encourage this. These are really, really helpful and useful in getting everybody on the same page. All right, so that was a lot of information. We did record this presentation, so we'll have that available to you. I'll send it out in the e-news, and they'll also send out the slides so that you have all the information that was on the slides, and of course, our contact information if you need anything. We do have time for a couple of questions. If anyone has anything they'd like us to address, we're happy to take those now. Okay, and I think Miss Ashinger has answered a few in the chat, which is good.
I think I got most of them. A lot of questions about ACT, SAT test prep courses. We do have a list that we can offer you. So just send either of us an email and we can send you that list.
Yep. There's a question here about Naviance. Yes, there is a way for parents to log into Naviance. So you can just email either Cassie or I, whoever's your college counselor, and we'll get that information to you. It's like a unique code we have to send you that will attach to your student's account. So we'll send that directly to you. Okay. What else is popping up here?
Yes, there is a list of universities that have reciprocal agreements in Missouri. So there's a whole website where you can kind of go through. And again, we can send that to you as well.
Yeah. And I will say, like, a lot of the reciprocal agreements come in the form of a scholarship. So like students have to meet a certain, GPA and ACT to get a scholarship for the amount that would offset tuition. And it really is school by school. So it's not like every single school in one state is going to give in-state tuition to Missouri. So we do have a list of it, though. We're happy to send that along to you if you'd like. Okay. Nominated for National Honor Society. Okay, so our National Honor Society at Webster, the nomination process actually happens pretty late compared to other schools. So the nomination process will happen after the completion of this semester. So students will get an invitation to apply if they meet their criteria, which is a 3.75 cumulative GPA. And so they will get an invitation to apply, and then they have a couple of essays and some things to do. It's a Canvas assignment that will come out, and then the inductions are typically in April. So most of our National Honor Society activity is really happening during senior year. Okay. And then we've got one about tech school. How do they get notified that a college is visiting? So That can be hard sometimes if your student's off campus for part of the day. But typically we can either get information from the rep for that student and keep it for them. And I know the technical school also has college visits, so they probably don't have as many as we would. But we certainly could help connect that student to that admissions rep if we need to. Okay. The new ACT. Oh yeah. Yeah, ACT's changing. So if you've been along this process before, the only thing consistent about it is that it changes. So yeah, so for the next academic year, there'll be some changes to the format and structure of the ACT. So I mean, you can look on act.org. They have some like outlines of some things that are changing, but since all the details haven't been flushed out yet, I just didn't want to put out any misinformation.
Most of our emails go out through Parent Square. So if you're not receiving those, we can check and see if you just have us blocked, or because that had happened with another parent of mine who was not receiving any emails. And then I kind of looked and it looked like they were actually blocking um, all the Parent Square notifications. So they actually had to turn that back on. But we can look. So if you just reach out to one of us, we can kind of take a look and see.
Okay, and then do we track alumni at specific schools? So we do have our students, like we know how many students went somewhere each year. We do keep track of that information. If we have that student's personal contact information, typically I'll ask that student at the college if it's okay to share, and then I'm happy to pass that along. Okay. And then A+ program only for summer school classes. Yes and no. So it's going to depend on how many credit hours a student takes. And then it also, if you're enrolled full time, it can also impact your eligibility at your home school or your four-year school. So it's really going to be depending on which summer and what school you'd be transferring those credits to. Okay, those are some great questions. And there's a couple others coming in. Feel free to send us an email if you have any specific questions about your student or anything that is coming up. We're happy to answer those and get you set on the right path.
The one right here, real quick, how do you help a child decide if you should take ACT or SAT? I was just talking to Jenny about that today. I actually always recommend taking both. To a certain extent, unless you expose yourself to both, you won't know which is the better test for you. And our SAT scores are actually really great. Our averages are great. I always say take both. If you need help with fee waivers, if you qualify, we can help with that too.
And some of your students might be signed up for the PSAT, which is a great practice SAT. So sometimes, like in our junior meetings, we'll kind of look at those scores and then look at a practice ACT score or real ACT and kind of look at those sections and how the student's doing. And then we can make a recommendation on, what we think might be a good next step. All right. Well, I will not hold you, past 7 o'clock. So thank you so much for spending a little time with us. And we're, really looking forward to getting to work with you and get to know your students better over the next year and find them a great place for life after high school.